Sal, Mark, Sal, a pleasure to be speaking with you both today. Sal, I'll throw the first question to you because this movie was not a 2 month process. It premiered a year and a half ago at the Los Angeles Jewish Film Festival, but how long was it in the works for?
It's been a few years, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Uh, Nina and I we decided that our next picture would be a Jewish movie and it would be a thriller back in 2019, maybe even 2018. And we started watching a thriller a day. That went on for 2 years to really do a deep dive on the genre.
Yeah.
And in the midst of that, there was a shooting at a synagogue in Poway, California. I went down the next day for the funeral of Laurie Gilbert Kay. I interviewed Rabbi Goldstein. I held his hands in his bandaged hands. He had his fingers shot off in that event. And then I watched the rabbi become a national figure in the ensuing days, calling on the public for mitzvahs, for good deeds, to do something good and meaningful in memory of Laurie, to make something good come out of that tragedy.
Sure.
And then this, and then we realized that we had the core of the movie that we were looking for.
So before I throw a question to Mark, I have to ask a follow-up, Sal, and that's the hat that you're wearing, the namesake of this movie. Commercially sold? Can everyday people get that? Because I'm sure there'd be at least 50,000 Guns N' Roses fans of the Jewish faith who'd want that hat.
GunsN'MosesMovie.com merchandise tab. We are selling the hats and people love them. Absolutely. Everywhere I go, people are like, where can I get that hat? Where can I get that hat?
There you go. So, Mark, thank you for taking the time. Longtime admirer of your work. Always advertised when I was watching Monday Night Raw, and here you are. So,
thank
Mark,
you so much, Darren.
How did you fall into this particular project?
Honestly, it was the most conventional way in our business through representatives. But usually when you get a script in that way, that's an indie script, it doesn't turn out to be the script you dream about. But in this case, my manager sent me a script. She said, let's read it and we'll talk on Monday. And as you're sitting and reading it, and you're being offered the lead role of Rabbi Mo, you expect something to happen along the way. The writing to fall apart, the role to fall apart, it to go nowhere. None of that happened. I just kept reading and reading like, wait a second, I get to be this comedic, dramatic action hero rabbi? Yeah. Holy shit. And I get on the phone with my manager. She agrees. We're like, we are doing this, baby. And within a week, I'm sitting in a sukkah on the Jewish holiday of Sukkot with Sal and Nina having a fabulous lunch and talking about the role of Rabbi Mo and the story and the import and the origin story. And I get to be part of this fabulous project.
So follow up to that, in reading what Sal had to say about the preparation of the film. Now, Sal, to his credit, is not just a director and a screenwriter or an attorney, but also he knows a thing or two about handling weaponry. And Sal had said in a quote that a lot of times you see an actor holding a gun in a movie and it's this montage where they're just firing off at a couple of targets or cans and now they're all skilled. For you, was it a big uphill battle to learn how to handle a gun?
Not a big uphill battle, but I was not familiar other than having taken riflery in summer camp once. I was not very familiar with guns. And yet I had the greatest support in not only Sal, who knows his way around a gun, but Yossi, who founded Maganam, the private security force that helps guard synagogues across Los Angeles and California, because not every synagogue can afford a security guard or a security force. They have developed their own, which is just such a tribute to that
volunteers, a system of volunteers.
Thank you, Sal. And Yossi was fantastic. We went to the riflery range out in Pachuch, and we just went over it and over it. And I remember filming what would end up being the slow-mo shot in the montage at the end of like a training montage when you're finally got it. And Sal, wanted to make sure I did everything right from feeling the wall, at which point you push the trigger, to getting my finger back on the side of the gun and off the trigger when I've pulled it. And I think finally, after a few takes, I got it and he was happy, and that made me very happy.
Wow.
It's the scene that's, if you can see right behind me right now, under the streetlight, and we filmed that at dusk, and so we only had 20 minutes to get 4 angles, and I needed Mark to get it exactly right. But if he had not trained and committed to this role and been ready and been such an eager and absorptive, if that's a word, absorbative, you absorb
I'll
so
give it,
much.
yeah.
Thank you, Sal.
That you were able to do it, because we really had such limited time with the magic hour lighting, and he nailed it. It's such a great scene.
Thanks, Sal.
So Sal, with the name of this movie, which we keep saying Guns and Moses, and we're going to keep saying, so SEO and the algorithm keep picking it up, was not the original title of the film. At what point in production or the creative process did it change to Guns and Moses?
The original name was Guns and Moses when we wrote the script, and then we kind of went undercover during production, and we were calling it Man in the Long Black Coat. It's just not attracting so much attention in Hollywood with all its weird attitudes. But also, we were always conscious. I've been through this a couple of times, right? This is our third film, and everything that really matters is now. The movie's coming out on July 18th, and this is when you want to bring all your big guns to bear. And if too much of it gets out along the way, and it takes a long time for an independent movie to get made, to go through the festival run, etc. And so it was good for us to be a little bit low key during production. So at that time, we were calling it Man in the Long Black Coat, which is a good name and a fun name and a seductive name, but a long name. And not
Sorry for that
cool.
Misinformation. I'd read The Man in the Black Coat when I was doing my research, and often you find that they LLC the name of the movie for just the LLC. Do you own Guns and Moses LLC?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Yes, we do. And we weren't able to get gunsandmoses.com. That's why we have gunsandmosesmovie.com. But gunsandmoses.com will point to our website. There's a fellow that I got to know in Texas who has no website associated with gunsandmoses.com, but he uses it for his email address. A really nice guy, and they just love having it in the family. And so he wouldn't sell us that URL, but he very politely is pointing the forwarding to our website.
So, Mark, you are one of many acclaimed actors in this production. Had you worked with anyone from the film before landing the role?
I had two of the actors. It's two, right, Sal? From
What?
Royal Pains. No more. I think it's two actors. Were
Michael and Paulo?
Michael and Paulo were good buddies of mine from Royal Pains days. Michael Silver and I go back all the way to high school when we played football against each other. And then he was on Royal Pains as Killer Keller. And Paulo Costanzo played my brother Evan on Royal Pains. And they were both so game and such, good friends, but also willing to dive into a great role because they're great actors. I had never worked with Dermot Mulrooney, just a fan of his ever since My Best Friend's Wedding. And Neil McDonough had seen him in the movies, a big fan, but had never worked with him. Alona Tal also, but it was so great to work with all of them, from the ones I knew to the ones I didn't know. And Neil McDonough gives a beautiful performance in a speech about a Jewish woman helping feed him when he's a young boy. It's such a beautiful speech, and he does it so beautifully. And there's such a nice kismet because at this controversial time for all Jews in America and the world, we have found perhaps an unlikely but welcome ally in the Christian community. And Neil is such a great leader in that world. And he makes movies with, about faith from that perspective. So it's so wonderful to have him involved in this movie.
So a selfish question that I'll throw at you, Mark, before I come back to Sal and I ask about future projects and all that. So you filmed some of Royal Pains here on Long Island in a town called Atlantic Beach, a couple towns over from here, the five towns. Do you remember filming much more on Long Island? Was Royal Pains actually largely filmed in the Hamptons, or is that all implied to be the Hamptons?
Darren, you are talking about sacred ground. I mean, the movie Guns N' Moses has, its own sacred ground, which is, of course, the
Sure.
Torah and the homeland and for our people. But a different segment of our people consider, I first of all, I grew up going to Long Beach as a child because my grandparents had a
That's
house.
hold on. That's where I'm dialing in from
Oh
Long
my
Beach.
God.
Yeah.
How close are you to Arizona Avenue?
The state streets, by car, it's 20 minutes, but it's
Okay.
really 0.4 miles. The
Okay.
Long Beach one lane traffic that you deal
Yep.
with.
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
We used to drive on the highway up we used to go to the batting cages and hit and go to the IHOP on the way to my grandparents.
Yeah.
And Vito's Pizzeria was the best. I think it was Vito Jr.'s for a while. I don't know if it's there anymore, but I love that part of the world. And when we were filming at the Catalina Beach Club,
Yes.
it was like, I mean, nowhere else in the world, but there we were the Beatles. It was unbelievable. Hundreds of people would come and greet us. It was, I mean, the Jewish version of the Beatles. It was amazing. So I love that. I love that you're there.
And plus,
Beatles.
Goodfellas filmed maybe the pistol whipping scene around there too. So Goodfellas, then Royal Pains number two, you could say for Catalina, right?
Yep. Yep. I think
So-
that's the order. For my parents, the reverse.
Do I amuse you?
Yeah.
Oh, I see what you did there, Sal.
Nice, Sal.
And then, following up to that though, Mark, a lot of Wikipedia and basic internet research says that you're a Manhattan kid, that you went to school in Manhattan. Are you actually a secret Long Islander?
I am not a secret Long Islander, though somehow my accent would suggest that. I grew up in Manhattan on the Upper East Side. I grew up going to Long Beach, as I said, and then later my parents rented a house and then eventually had a house in Bridgehampton. So I will reveal my location to you, Darren. I am talking to you from the Promised Land itself. I am in Bridgehampton or Watermill as we speak, and it's a beautiful day, and I couldn't be happier sitting here talking to you and Sal.
Well, say hey to Paul Simon for us, but back to Sal here. So this is a new movie to us, to you is long in the making. Are we allowed to know what's coming next? And if so, what genre it's going to be? Would we see another thriller from you, for example?
Yes, we are working on another thriller, a biblical thriller. It's funny when a movie is set in biblical times, it's generally a war picture, right? A sword and sandals, spectacular, sometimes a romance. But I don't know that there's ever been a biblical thriller. And we've got a murder mystery set in a city of refuge, a place where killers flee to. And so therefore, when a murder happens there, everyone is a suspect.
Wow. Okay. And that will be with you as director and writer or co-writer?
Nina and I write all our pictures together and I direct. Yeah, we are a mom and pop shop. And we're not interested in, the Hollywood shuffle of meetings that lead to meetings that lead to meetings. We like making pictures. And so that's one we're really excited about. And God willing, Guns N' Moses is a big hit. Well, then we've created a franchise character in Rabbi Mo. Once you've got a detective, there are a lot of crimes to solve in the, modern and real world. So would love to keep working with Mark and have Rabbi Mo solve some more crimes.
I mean, Mission Impossible's come to an end, supposedly. So I think it's time for a little Guns N' Moses franchise.
Well, let's be honest.
In all
Hebrew Hammer got a sequel.
Right. Good point.
Yeah.
They talked about it. I don't think they made it, right?
I think it was straight to Comedy Central or straight to TV, but still, Spinal Tap had a sequel.
But I would like to talk about that for a second, Darren. I mean,
Yes.
It's very important to us. Guns N' Moses, there's humor in the movie, but it's a straight up thriller. and an action thriller at that. And it's one that explodes stereotypes. When you see Jews in movies, it tends to be shticky comedy or, tragic Holocaust. And there's not so much in between. And there's just never been a picture like Guns N' Moses at all. Mark plays Rabbi Mo, who's got, on the one hand, a sweetness that anyone who knows a Chabad rabbi might be familiar with, a real caring, loving kindness that he puts his congregants before himself, a father of a large family, which is pretty well known in the Hasidic and the Chabad world. But he's also a guy, like so many people in my community, in the Orthodox community, that we are aware of the threat level. We're aware that that we have to stand up for ourselves. That never again means we take accountability for our safety. And when push comes to shove, he learns how to shoot. As you mentioned earlier, the use of firearms and the learning and training of firearms is very much from the real world. And so he's got a very multifaceted character himself, Alona Tal playing the rabbi's wife, both of them, and so many other characters in the movie, literally exploding stereotypes. You just haven't seen characters, and particularly Jewish characters, in a movie like this. And in a summer that's just so filled with reboots and sequels and prequels and existing intellectual property where they're just really running over the same old ground. Well, here we have found something new. And I know people are going to enjoy it so much when they come out and support Guns N' Moses with their feet on July 18th, opening weekend.
And besides Rabbi Mo, David Lee Roth also shatters the stereotypes. It's just
you bet he does.
And then Mark, the last word here, so we keep you no more than 22 minutes long for this interview. Are we allowed to know where we're going to see you next, or do we just have to follow you on Instagram and IMDb and wait?
No, I can tell you that I'm filming a show called Nemesis, which is coming up on Netflix. And it should be a great show. It's created by Courtney Kemp, who created the entire Power universe.
Yeah,
she got made a big deal at Netflix, so she's bringing that world a new incarnation at Netflix. But it will, be similarly entertaining and great. But I'm developing a lot of great stuff, but also incredibly excited about Guns N' Moses.
I'm glad you both have exciting new projects coming out soon. But in the meantime, thank you for making Guns N' Moses, and really looking forward to the eventual sequel.
Thank you, Darren.
Thank you, Darren.
Paltrocast.